This is logged in on November 25th, 2023, Eastern Standard Time. Sensitive material has been breached and it is now in front of the public. This is very sensitive documentation and the world will be in total chaos if leaked, and it is now leaked. All of it. Not one document, all of it. Place of exploitation, forbidden knowledge television. This must be stopped.
We all have one question. Who are the Anunnaki?
The Anunnaki is arguably one of the greatest mysteries of our ancient history and our past.
We have to ask, who were the gods? The gods were extraterrestrials.
Join me in this grand odyssey and discovery as we seek to uncover the hidden truths of the Anunnaki.
By studying the Anunnaki, we truly unlock the secrets within ourselves at the same time.
We are the offsprings of extraterrestrials, and that's not coincidence.
This is the saga of the Anunnaki and their ancient secrets revealed. Okay, here we go. What's up, everybody? I just had to, before we got really started, I had to make sure I got my water and a cup of coffee and also use the restroom real quick. So thank y'all for hanging out. It's another great, beautiful night down here in sunny South Florida. Thank you for all the great people in the live chat already. A lot of people hanging out for quite some time. We got the lovers and we got the haters, and hey, it's all good. I mean, you know, it's all good. I've been watching some of these videos online and I've just been laughing. I saw a cartoon today. Somebody made like some little cartoons of me with that debate thing. And I ain't gonna lie, I was laughing I was literally rolling on the floor. So funny. But hey, what can you do, man? It is what it is, right? I should have sent my clone. I shouldn't have sent my clone out there to do that interview. I should have went and done it myself. The clone didn't have all the downloads yet. It wasn't fully optimized. Anyway, what up, Doe? I see a lot of great people in the chat. Everything is all good. We're gonna have a great night tonight. And we're gonna be talking tonight about the difference between UAPs and UFOs. All right, so I'm gonna talk about that tonight. We'll talk a little bit about, what is a UAP? What is a UFO? And why are there two different names? Based on what my opinion is. We're going to also take a look at some historical facts as well and see, when did this thing go from being a UFO? And if it is a UFO, are they from outer space? Are they from somewhere else? We'll explore that tonight. And then this UAP agenda, we'll explore that as well, because I think the UAP and the UFO are two different things in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases. So it's going to be interesting. All right. So make sure you guys click that like button. Make sure you like, subscribe, and make sure you share this video. All right. Let's get it out there. So make sure you share it. We appreciate you. A lot of great, beautiful people in the live chat. Thank you for all the positive comments, all the positive love, and everything else that's going on. I mean, obviously, YouTube has been going crazy. Wait, but listen, man, I came to peace with it. It is what it is. It's time to move on. I bless those people. I pray for them. I hope that they're doing well. I wish them the highest, most frequency. I hope for their best of successes in their life. But it's time for you to move on. We're going to talk about UFOs and UAPs tonight, and it's going to be a great, great talk. All right. So I know a lot of people have been wondering, like, what is this UAP? What is this UFO situation? Like, exactly what is it? What does it mean? Like, how come they changed this name to UAP, and who changed the name to UAP? Okay. And why did that happen? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And we're going to talk about some of the behind the scenes issues and situations that have occurred dealing with these UFOs and UAPs, and some of the trauma that has caused a lot of people. Okay. So it's going to be incredible. All right. It's going to be incredible. We're looking forward to this. It's going to be amazing. Amazing. So now let's take a look here. All right. The first thing we want to do, let's get in here and take a look in here. Let's see here. Remember, guys, never send your clone out to do your job. All right, let's get in here and get this party started. All right, so I want to show you guys. Before I do, before I show you something, let me go over something a little bit real quick too. All right, because I got a couple things pulled up that I definitely want to cover to keep it on point and in order. All right. Here it goes here. All right, let me close this out and get you guys started here. Make sure you guys click the like button. Make sure you guys share the video. All right. Shout out to Dave Asprey with the Danger Coffee. It's amazing coffee. All right. And here we go. So the terminology and origin, UFO, unidentified flying object is what we're talking about, an unidentified flying object. The term originated in the 1950s in the height of the Cold War era because there were a lot of sightings. And I'm going to play some video tonight that's going to reference that Cold War era. And you're going to hear from actual people, individuals that had high-level government jobs and military positions at the time that these UFOs were showing up. And I'm going to tell you where they were showing up, and they're going to tell you where they were showing up. And it's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. One thing you have to understand about the testimonials and the eyewitness testimonials I'm going to give you tonight, these people that you're going to hear from have some of the hardest jobs to get in the world. One gentleman, his job is to have the codes to the nukes, to actually reprogram nuclear arms. That's his job. And so when he speaks and testifies, you actually have to listen to him because he knows something that we don't. And he has one of the hardest jobs to get in the actual world. Okay. Now, primarily, the UFOs means you can't identify what it is. There have been some seen coming up out of the oceans. They've been seen in the skies. They've been seen chasing fighter jets and doing circles around fighter jets. They've been seen shutting down airports, making airports close down. There have been a lot of incredible sightings over a very long period of time of objects that are unidentifiable. Now, the UAP name, the unidentified aerial phenomenon, I believe is a name that's been co-opted by, of course, the government, the military-industrial complex. And the reason why is to take control of the narrative. When you say unidentified aerial phenomenon, you're not saying it's an actual object. It could be swamp gas. It could be some type of a natural effect in the sky. It could be ball lightning. There's so many things that it could be. It could be balloons, hot air balloons, or high altitude balloons, meteorological balloons. So when you add that word phenomenon to it, unidentified aerial phenomenon, you're not really saying that it's an object that's physical as we know it, or you're not saying that it's an object that we believe is capable of these characteristics of incredible flight patterns. You can always say, oh, no, it was just, no matter what anybody saw, you can always say, oh, no, we don't really, these things are just whatever. They're not real. It's a newer, more neutral term that was really adopted by the governments and scientific organizations. And like I said, it's aiming to like broaden the scope between physical objects and anomalous aerial activity. It's also designed to reduce the stigma tied to UFO, according to them. But according to me, no, it's to put the UFO, situation or the UFO community in a headlock and take control of the narrative. That's what I personally feel has been going on. Okay. And, UFOs are often attributed to, or I guess, utilizing correlation with potential extraterrestrial life, people coming from somewhere else from outer space. A lot of people may be skeptic of that. They may ridicule you. Over the years, you could be called a tinfoil hat wearing person, or a crazy person, or a kook, or whatever. So they've really done a really good job in programming people to be excited to go to the movies and go watch Hollywood films about UFOs and aliens. But when it comes to them being real in real life, they've discouraged it and created this community of attack, right? I call it the Agent Smith effect. So anytime you start talking about anything potential with aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrials, anything out of this world, the person you're talking to, if they're not on that frequency, you'll see them shift. You'll see Agent Smith from the Matrix jump right into their body, and their whole countenance will change. And now this person is an agent ready to shut you up and make you change the topic, or to degrade you and make you feel embarrassed or make you feel bad about yourself for even bringing it up. That's the Agent Smith effect. Okay. And so that's what's happened. They really put this whole topic in a headlock and taken it over. So we're going to break some of that stigma tonight, I believe, and we're going to talk about some things, all right? And we'll talk about some famous UFO sightings and go over those. I'm going to show you guys a few images there. We'll also get to some of the Cold War eyewitness testimony. We'll play some short video clips. And it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to open up a lot of people's eyes, because a lot of people have probably never heard these officers testify before. So it's going to be amazing. Hopefully you guys went and saw on Amazon Prime Video, The Battle for Disclosure. The Battle for Disclosure. And that is an amazing documentary. We hit #1 on Amazon Prime 2 days ago. We passed all documentaries on Amazon Prime, all, even Superman, the Superman documentary. We passed Superman. So we're now #1, The Battle for Disclosure. Make sure you guys go and check it out on Amazon Prime Video. All right. Dr. Stephen Greer. Shout out to Dr. Stephen Greer. Shout out to the Cousins brothers, Michael Schratt. Who else is in there? Sean Ryan. Who else we have in there? Just an incredible cast. We have congressmen. We have everybody in there. It's an amazing documentary. So make sure you guys go and check it out. #1 out of all documentaries on the entire Amazon Prime platform. Okay, #1. All right, so let me get over here. All right. Let's now talk about some of these UFO sightings, which I think are pretty incredible, that happened back in the day. There's a few that really stick out to me. I mean, there's so many. There's literally so many. There's probably tens of thousands of sightings, okay? One of the earliest sightings that I know about that I believe is credible, just based on the fact that there's a captain's log, was Christopher Columbus, okay? So Christopher Columbus was sailing. And where was Christopher Columbus headed? No, he wasn't headed to America like they tried to teach us in school. They finally started rewriting these history books. Christopher Columbus was trying to find India and not America. He got lost. He ended up stumbling across some islands off the coast of America, or the coast of the Americas. And that's why people started calling the indigenous natives of the Americas Indians. It was because of Christopher Columbus. He actually coined that term, that name, giving it to these indigenous natives, which really, in truth, is actually an insult, okay, to call them Indians. They're indigenous natives of the Americas. different tribes. But that's how he got here. But nonetheless, as he was sailing across the Atlantic Ocean, he wrote something very interesting in his log. Now, remember, this is in the 1400s. This is a very long time ago. There are no satellites, right? There are, no cell phone towers. There's nothing definitely in the middle of the ocean. There's no airplanes flying overhead. There's nothing. There is absolutely nothing out there but the dark sky with the stars and his ship and his navigating capabilities with his crew and the ocean. That's it. What happens? A huge, glowing, bright object comes up out of the ocean, shines and lights up the entire sky, and then takes off into space. And this is noted in Christopher Columbus' captain's log. Now, captains don't just write anything in their captain's log. A captain's log is a very solace place. It's a place where you put super important, relevant information, because that captain's log becomes an actual historical fact. So you don't just start doodling in some science fiction stories in your captain's log, because the Queen is going to inspect that log when you get back, and other important politicians and other important people may have to get access to that log for various different reasons. You don't just start scribbling in your log and making up Star Trek movies, okay? So what he wrote in the log was important, was factual based on his eyewitness account. And the fact that it's in his log, for me, it lets me know that's a real and true UFO sighting, an unidentified flying object back then, which means since technology wasn't at its peak where it's at now, or even hell, 60 years ago, it wasn't even close to that. We're talking about the best we had at the time were cannons and guns, and the guns weren't even the best at that time. You had to stuff them with gunpowder. It'd take you, I don't know how many minutes it take you to get a bullet to pop. You got to go through this whole process just to fire a gun and fire a cannon. We were low tech back then. And since we were so low tech, whoever had that technology must have been hundreds of thousands of years more advanced than us. For me, that tells me UFO, my opinion, potentially from outer space or maybe from under the ocean. Something we don't really talk about a lot is, could some of these sightings of these advanced ships, these UFO ships, not all of them, but could some of them, could there be bases in the actual ocean? We would never know, because the ocean is one of the most least explored places in the universe. We've looked at the stars more than we've looked into the oceans. We've spent trillions of dollars on satellites looking throughout the entire known universe, trying to find everything we could find, even though we've only come up with just a small sliver so far. It's still incredible the amount of trillions of galaxies and everything else we've been able to discover in a tiny spot in the sky. But we spent a lot of money to do that, and a lot of time and a lot of energy. A lot of scientific minds have come together from all over the world to do that research. But we haven't invested any real research into the oceans, which is just like outer space as well. I mean, there's so much stuff in our oceans. We have extremophiles in the ocean. What's an extremophile? An extremophile is a living entity or living creature, sea life, that actually doesn't need to process oxygen the way we do. It can live at the tops of the mouths of volcanoes under the ocean that are spewing out sulfur underneath the ocean. It's spewing out this hot, molten sulfur. It can breathe it. It can live from it. Okay, so we're talking about extremophiles, creatures that can withstand immense amount of pressure on their body. You remember that billionaire that went down in that submarine a couple years ago? Or they navigated down, and when they got too deep, what happened? The submarine just imploded. Too much pressure. So these animals, these fish, or whatever you want to call them down there, they can navigate there, they can live there. And some of them are extremophiles. They don't extract oxygen from the water the way that normal fish and other sea life do. They can actually sit right on top of the most toxic places and actually live just perfectly fine with no problems. So there's so much going on down there. We have no clue. We don't even know if there could be bases underneath the oceans. There could be advanced bases that have been there for eons. And because of our lack of understanding, our lack of technology, Maybe their advanced cloaking capabilities, we just can't see or detect them. Okay. But let's take a look at some of these incidences that happened. We have 19th century. We have mystery airships in the late 1800s, right? You know, they call it the 19th century, but it's really the late 18th. Every time you get close to the end of a century, they kind of name it after the next century coming up. And so between 1896 and 1897, numerous reports emerged across the United States, specifically and mostly in California, Texas, and the Midwest, of mysterious objects flying in the sky long before airplanes were commonplace. Long before. Witnesses described large cigar-shaped objects with powerful lights. And so this is crazy because it made a lot of official papers. It made a lot of official news sources. You have the Cohen Daniel. That's the Great Airship Mystery, a UFO in the 1890s. Okay. Also another source is Clark Jerome, and that is the UFO book, Encyclopedia of Extraterrestrial, The Visible Link. And that's the Link Press. That came out in 1998. So, but if you Google this, there's articles and everything else, old articles and old eyewitness accounts from multiple states at the same time that saw these objects, mystery airships flying across the United States in the mid to late 1800s. That's pretty crazy. I think those are UFOs, my opinion. Then you have the Aurora, Texas incident. But, you know, let me go back to this first one again. Let me go back to the first one because I think I might have an image of, let me see if I can find this image of the actual object that they're saying they discovered, or a drawing of it, of eyewitness account. This was the eyewitness account of what they saw. You can see it looks like a circular UFO type of a disc. This came out of one of the newspaper clippings. And I guess they describe some type of propeller activity. Maybe that's for directional moving in different directions, or movements, or to stabilize the craft. But this image came out of the actual newspaper clippings that was written up in the 1800s. Okay, crazy stuff. Let's see. Then we have the Aurora, Texas incident in 1897. On April 17, 1897, a mysterious airship was reportedly seen to crash into a windmill near Aurora, Texas. According to contemporary newspaper accounts, the pilot, purportedly a non-human entity, was inside of it. He reported a non-human entity was inside of this craft. He said it did not survive. While many consider it folklore or a hoax, the tale remains one of the earliest well-known UFO crash stories. There was an article and a photo taken at the site, and I will pull up the article here. This is the original article from 1897. Discovery of evidence surrounding 1897 UFO crash baffles scientists. Scientists went out there to check this thing out. They went to research it. They took samples. They took materials. They picked up pieces of what they thought was the remains of a craft. The military took away what people thought might have been a dead body. Okay, so what was that? To me, potentially, that could be a real UFO that happened in 1897. Then one of the most famous, incredible UFO sightings ever, in my opinion, is the Battle of Los Angeles. And that happened in 1942. This happened 5 years before the Roswell incident, I believe, right? Yeah. 5 or 6 years before the Roswell incident. And so in February 1942, following Pearl Harbor, anti-aircraft artillery was fired at an unidentified object or objects reported over Los Angeles. Despite hours of gunfire, no downed aircraft was ever found. This thing hovered stationary in one place while the military shot at it for a long time until they started running out of ammunition, and nothing happened to the craft. The LA Times, I believe, or it may have been the LA Times, I'll tell you right now, they took an amazing photo which made all the magazines, including, I believe, Time magazine. And here's the photo, the Los Angeles Times. If you look at the center of the bright light at the top, you can see that disc-shaped UFO. Those lights are coming from the military. The military have surrounded it, have lit it up. It was said to be a silent craft, no sound, no noise. It just hovered there while they pounded this thing for quite some time, and nothing happened to it. It just left, and there was never a crash. Nothing happened. It just disappeared. Okay, incredible sighting right there. And that's the battle for Los Angeles. Now, that one really amazed me because, I mean, you know, you can find the information out about this. Just go to the U.S. War Department contemporary press releases. There's so much information about that object. It's very easy to look up. And then you had the Kenneth Arnold sighting in 1947. Okay, he on June 24th, 1947, private pilot Kenneth Arnold reported 9 strange high-speed objects near Mount Rainier in Washington. His description was like, it's a flying saucer skipping on water. And that led to the actual term, or he coined the phrase flying saucer. Prior to him, that term was never used to describe these unknown objects, but he's the one who coined the name flying saucer. He said it was like a saucer skipping on water. It was his description to the authorities. And you can look at the U.S. Air Force Project Blue Book archives to get that information. And right on the government website, okay? It was a crazy sighting, an incredible description of this huge, giant, massive flying saucer, maybe about 100 yards was the size. And he gave a great, incredible description of this object. Again, back at a time when we didn't have a lot of technology, we were probably developing technologies and working on secret technologies, but devices flying and maneuvering and doing the things that these sightings described, I just don't personally feel we had that capability at that time yet. Okay, I think we have gotten it since then, but not yet. And then of course we know we have that Roswell incident, 1947. In 1947, people think it was only one ship that came down, one crash. There were actually 2 crashes that day, all right, and within maybe a 50-mile range of each other. And how did these UFOs come down in 1947? Now, of course, they tried to clean it up after the whole article and everything came out. Eyewitness accounts came out. The military stepped in and gagged everybody and said, no. This is just a weather balloon or whatever they said, right? But they tried to change the story after it already had leaked and everything had made the news. People had already seen this thing, touched it, picked up pieces and took pieces of it home. Bodies were reportedly there. The bodies were recovered. The rest of the object was recovered. And even for years later, people were still finding little pieces of debris from this downed craft. A lot of technology was said to come from this Roswell UFO incident out of New Mexico. And I mean, technology like Velcro, fiber optics, microchips, all these things seem to have come from this Roswell craft, according to some of the people who are considered to be aerospace historians and insiders. It's pretty cool stuff. Now, people say to me a lot, well, if UFOs really exist, okay, if UFOs really exist, how can they fly potentially light years or great vast distances to get to Earth, and then when they get here, they just crash on the ground? Why would that happen? Like, how can they just crash? Because there have been a lot of crash retrievals. A lot of people in the military had come forward talking about these crash retrievals and the fact that, you know, they have the bodies and they have these ships not of this world. That was David Grush just recently. Congress, he was testifying before Congress just recently. So David Grush was testifying before Congress recently, and he said we have bodies and we have craft not of this world. Okay, and this is a man that at the time with a high position in government working on this stuff. But how can they fly all the way here and then crash? Well, it's a good question. First and foremost, let's take a look at space travel. It's very, very risky. It's very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. I mean, just to get our chemical-based rockets to launch, they blow up. Every 5th one blows up. People die all the time. There's been so many explosions on launch pads. So many people trying to come back into the atmosphere and their ship breaking up because of one small crack in the shell. The whole ship, well, one tile missing on a space shuttle, the whole ship blows up, everybody passes away. Imagine you come to a planet like Earth and you've evaluated their technological prowess and the level of technology that they're at, and you've determined that their military can't really do anything to us because they're not at our level yet. There's a level you have to get to before you can really be a threat to us, and so they're not at our level. We're going to go down and check them out. And then you get here and you don't know that they've developed something called a scalar radar system, SCALAR, scalar. That technology was being developed in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s by who? Nikola Tesla. The government took his plans for the scalar weapon when he passed away. They developed it themselves. And today we actually have real functioning, well-known, documented scalar technology. Now, the scalar technology is interesting because it can be used as a sophisticated level of radar. But what they found out early on while testing this scalar technology is that it was easily weaponized. And how they can weaponize it was they started pointing it at vessels in the sky, flying planes. And the pilots started reporting that when they were being scanned by radar, all of their navigation equipment and instruments went haywire. They could not control the plane anymore. So when these things showed up and they started flying around the skies, they said, you know, what happens if we point our scalar at this thing? What would happen since it's disorienting our own planes? We wonder what would happen with their navigation systems. And I personally believe that scalar technology was utilized to bring down a lot of these craft, specifically and especially the Roswell incident in 1947. I believe those two craft were brought down with scalar technology, which now became a scalar weapon. And when they realize they can bring these things down, disorient them and bring them down, they can then go and get the craft, bring it back to their own hidden black budget laboratories and reverse engineer the project, reverse engineer the technology and create new projects from them. And I personally believe that's what has happened. These UAPs are what I call ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. This is reverse advanced technology. They reverse engineered a lot of tech that didn't come from Earth, just as some government official said. And David Rush is not the only person that ever said, we are in possession of craft not of this world. And yes, we have the bodies as well. So that's pretty interesting. ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles. That's what I call them. Okay. That's what I call them. So that is a pretty interesting breakdown of some, what I consider to be some real UFO sightings. Okay. I consider those to be pretty accurate. And we're going to take a look at some of these recent UAP events, right? Because this is what's been coming out lately. Now let's take a look before we shift gears. Before we shift into the UAPs, I want to show you some video clips. Okay, I want to show you some video clips from an actual press club conference that took place in Washington, D.C. And I've been to the press club before at Washington, D.C., right next to the White House. Just recently, I was there with Dr. Stephen Greer as we were having some people come out to give their testimony as to what happened and what they witnessed and how their lives were threatened, and even some family members were killed and they were attacked and they tried to break their neck. These people were former special ops and private industry that had gotten access to some black budget projects and saw some things they weren't supposed to see. And so they're in the Battle for Disclosure documentary as well. So you can check that out on Amazon Prime. Okay. High level people, super high level people. Some of the hardest jobs to get, they had them. And so, but during this press club, Dr. Stephen Greer, he hosted one in 2001. This is how long this man has been at work. This is why we gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Conscious Awards not too long ago. That was the second annual Forbidden Conscious Awards that happened earlier this summer, right? He got the Lifetime Achievement Award, but he deserved it because, I mean, this man has been grinding on this topic. He's been debriefing congressmen, senators, and even presidents of the United States about this information and fighting for new laws to protect whistleblowers that want to come forward to keep them safe from harm, which is really what this whole last press club was all about. fighting for these new laws to come into place, and that we have some now. And he also provides protection for people looking to come forward, real whistleblowers that are vetted, so pretty amazing. But I'm going to play a couple of clips from this press club, 2001. Remember what I told you. These men that you're going to listen to now, I'm going to play a few clips, just some random clips I'm going to pull up. They had jobs that are damn near impossible for any one of us to get. These people are guarding nuclear flights and military bases that have nukes on them. The theme across the whole board with this testimony that came out and aired even on CNN, actually, it's about these nuclear flights. What is a flight? A flight is a nuclear silo where the nukes are actually housed. They call them flights, and they're way out in the middle of nowhere, but they're all over the world. And these men talk about these UFOs showing up at these flights and engaging them. And they even had rules and laws about what would happen when these things showed up. And they show up in broad daylight to deactivate the nukes. Okay, let's take a look at some of these clips.
That I will testify under oath as to what I say is true, and I will do so before Congress. Thank you.
My name is Robert Solis. Contrary to what it says on the card, I was not a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force active duty after I graduated from the Air Force Academy in 1964 until 1971 and separated as a captain. In March of 1967, I was stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana, as a missile launch officer, Minuteman missiles. On an early morning of March 16th, 1967, I got a call from my security guard, primary security guard upstairs. We had about 6, as I recall, flight security airmen upstairs. I was downstairs 60 feet underground in a capsule monitoring and controlling 10 nuclear-tipped Minuteman missiles. I got a call that morning that they were seeing strange lights flying in the sky. I disregarded that call. Told them to call me when something more significant happened. I got another call subsequent to that call, and this time it was a more intense tone in the guard's voice. It was very clearly very frightened. He said there was a bright, glowing red object hovering outside the front gate. It was oval-shaped. He had all the other guards out there with their weapons drawn. Right after that call, I woke up my commander, who was on a rest period, Fred Mywald, a retired colonel now, and told him about the phone calls. As I was telling him about the phone calls, my weapons started going down, one after the other. They went into a no-go condition, what we call a no-go condition. They were unlaunchable. We lost somewhere between 6 and 8 weapons that morning within minutes of having received that second phone call of a UFO hovering outside the front gate. Again that morning, after reporting it to the command post, we were informed that a very similar incident happened at Echo Flight. I was at Oscar Flight. They lost all 10 of their weapons under similar circumstances, very similar circumstances, where UFOs were sighted over the launch facilities. They had maintenance crews and security crews out there that had spent the night, and they were reporting UFOs over those sites. And the commander of that flight was Eric Carlson. He also separated as a captain, and the deputy commander was Walt Fiegel. They retired as a lieutenant colonel. We have those witnesses that I just mentioned, the names I just mentioned have spoken of this event before, and they will back up this story. We also have documentation that I received through FOIA requests from the Air Force outlining the Echo flight incident and including in that documentation a reference to UFOs. We have telexes covering this incident, and in one telex it says the fact that no apparent reason for the loss of 10 missiles can be readily identified is cause for grave concern to this headquarters. This was from SAC headquarters. So we've got those telexes. I've got about 12 witnesses that'll verify parts of this story, including of a man who investigated the incident afterwards for the Air Force, and you'll hear a little bit more about that from the next witness. And also another guard that witnessed a UFO in that same time period, and another officer who retired a full colonel who had other reports of UFOs. Ancillary to that, excuse me, I've got the complete report on a Minot, North Dakota incident. That was Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, which happened in August of 1966. Very similar UFOs sighted over missile silos, and also a UFO incident that was investigated by the Air Force immediately after our incident within a week. I'm willing to testify to the truth of all these matters that I've spoken about this in front of Congress under oath. Thank you.
Wow, and that's just one. And a lot of incredible things he said there. Okay, he talked about these flights. These are nuclear flights. Like I said, these flights are all over the world. They're spread out. What's interesting is these flights house these nukes that have particular codes, encrypted codes on them. And you heard him say they took the nukes down. They deactivated the codes in the nukes. In my opinion, these are real UFOs, because I haven't seen one UAP yet go and deactivate nukes. I haven't seen one UAP come out yet trying to force human beings to stay in their place and not battle and fight one another and destroy one another. But these UFOs showed up at military bases in broad daylight all over the world and sent us a very serious message. And that message is, you will not destroy this planet, not with nuclear fallout. You will not do that. And they deactivated the nukes, not to break them or that they can never be used again, but to prove to us that our technology is ridiculous. It's laughable compared to what they have. It's absolutely laughable. And if they wanted to, they could dominate us, but they're showing us their empathy for us by deactivating the nukes and sending us that message. Okay? That was during the Cold War. There's more. There's more. Let me see if I can find a couple more of these.
Close to me in Auburn, Washington. That's where I'm from. And he said, Arnie, he says, those missiles were perfectly clean. That was the result. So the one last incident concerned when I was in the... Good morning. My name is Dwayne Arneson. I served 26 years as a communication electronics officer in the U.S. Air Force, all over the world, including Vietnam. I was lucky to be selected to be commander of 3 different units in the Air Force. I held a top secret SCI TK clearance, and for those who don't know, it is slightly above top secret. I retired in 1986 as a colonel at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. I would like to relate about 3 different experiences, if you will, that relate to UFOs. As a young lieutenant over in Germany, Ramstein Air Base, Germany, back in the early 60s, I was in charge of the cryptographic center. I had a top secret crypto clearance at that time, and I can clearly recall seeing a message that went through my crypto center which said that a UFO had crashed on the island of Spitsbergen, Norway, and the team of scientists were coming to investigate it. Going forward to the 1967 timeframe, I was assigned to the 28th Air Division at Great Falls, Montana, and I was the officer in charge of the communications center there. Also, I was a top secret control officer for the division. I had a crypto account. I was a account custodian, and I also passed out nuclear launch authenticators. During that time, I can recall seeing a message come through that communications center which said, basically what Bob was just got through talking about, is that a UFO was seen near the missile silos and the missiles were deactivated. Coincidentally, the person that Boeing sent to investigate the particular missile conditions, if you will, what made them shut down, was my first manager at Boeing, Mr. Bob Kaminsky, who has since passed away. And I can recall him on different occasions. He lived close to me in Auburn, Washington. That's where I'm from. And he said, Arnie, he says, those missiles were perfectly clean. That was the result. So the last incident concerned when I was as a commander of the unit in Great Falls, or in Caswell Air Force Station, Maine, I had contacts with the security police at Loring Air Force Base, and they told about UFOs that were seen near the nuclear weapon storage areas on Loring Air Force Base. And I'd be glad to testify to Congress that this is absolutely the truth. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Harlan Bentley.
So, like I said before, we're talking about real credible witnesses here. Some people you didn't even know they existed. Some of y'all, some of you did. These people, this man his clearance was above top secret clearance. You know, there's levels of top secret. TS clearance goes different levels above. You even have cosmic top clearance within NATO. There's some high level top secret. He's above top secret. This man actually hands out the launch codes that can destroy every single person on this planet. This man had access to that information. And so when he comes forward and says, after having such an esteemed career, and says, hey guys, they showed up, they came in broad daylight, and they did what? They deactivated the nukes. You see a common theme here. The theme is they didn't come here to blow us up. Hollywood has us believing that these aliens are going to come to Earth and they're going to kill us and shoot us with these laser beams, and they're going to shoot and kill one person at a time. We got 8 billion people. They're going to pick us off with these laser beams, and they're going to get into these vehicles and whatever, and they're going to fly around different cities until they can blow up everybody and make all this mess. That's not how they would do it. You got to realize they're far more advanced than us if they can travel across the vast distances of space and time, which means that if you want to take over a planet and you're that sophisticated, you do it in a way where the people aren't even aware that you're taking over their planet. That would be something as simple as coming to the planet, visiting it, getting some organic material, and creating some level of virus or bacteria that you can release into the atmosphere. Or you would poison the water, and then you would just sit back and wait. And it might take a year. Before you know it, everybody's gone. You see? And then you just come down here, no attacks, no shooting people and trying to find rebels and all this. No, you take care of it with, technology, understanding biology. So, but they haven't done that, and they're not doing that. What they have done is now you've just seen 2 out of dozens of high-level officers come and testify and say, hey, this is what's going on. If you look at the news right now with this whole UAP thing, there's nobody coming forward and saying they came to shut the nukes off. What they're saying is they're a threat to national security. That's where they're flipping the coin and trying to change the whole frequency of this thing as to what they believe it is, or what they want us to believe it is. They're really trying to make it into something that it ain't. Okay? Shout out to eSnap. Peace, my brother. Good seeing you, man. I hopefully will see you again very soon. So we have to understand the difference between these UFOs and them giving us a message to say, hey, we won't allow you to destroy yourselves and destroy this planet. They probably don't care about us destroying ourselves, but I'm pretty sure they care about us destroying this planet. And why this planet? Earth is a gem out in the outer reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, one of the outer arms rotating around the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. It's a gem of life. There are still probably millions or maybe even billions of undiscovered life forms directly here, right on this planet itself. This planet is booming and beaming with life in all areas and all aspects, from every corner, every nook, every cranny. You can scrape some ooze off of a rock, underneath a rock near a lake, and you can find millions of organisms in that little scrape of ooze. Okay? Thank you, people, for really supporting. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ruben Rivera. Much, much appreciated. And so what does that mean? It means that this planet is a gem. It's an absolute gem in a place where there seems to be a lot of planets, but potentially not a lot of high developed life or even microorganism life. There seems to be a lot of organic material around, but not a lot of actual life, not a lot of things living. So this is a gem. This is a great resource in the outer reaches of the Milky Way galaxy. And they're not going to allow us to destroy it. Okay? Let's take a look at, let's see if we can find another interesting one.
1957 and 1959, I was a PFC in the United States Army, stationed north of Washington, D.C. on a Nike Ajax missile base close to Olney, Maryland. In May, this month in 1958, about 6 a.m., I heard a noise outside that sounded like a pulsating transformer. I sat up in my bunk, I looked out the window, I saw a craft heading for the ground and crashed. Pieces broke off of that craft, immediately took off again. So there's a lot more to that story, but I've got to speed this up. Now, the next night, I was on radar duty. I get a call from the Gaithersburg missile base. He says, hey, I got 12 to 15 UFOs outside, 50 to 100 feet above me. So I asked him, I said, what does it sound like? He took his head mic off, held it out the van window, and said, here. And the same sound I heard the previous morning, except a lot more of them. So my radar was on standby, so I immediately turned it on and got the blip just outside the ground clutter. I marked it on my radar screen. And then for a few minutes later, all of a sudden they took off. As they took off, the sweep came around, hit the blip. The second, and when it came around, it hit it again. That blip was 2/3 away off my radar scope. In order to get that far at a constant velocity was 17,000 miles an hour. That was my first incident. 10 years later, by this time I received a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering, and I was working in California. Now, I'm sorry that all I can say is I was somewhere in California working on a classified project that had nothing to do with my experience that I had there. As I was working, and it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, California time, I heard a Houston astronaut communication link, comlink. I didn't pay much attention to it until I heard the word bogey. Of course, my ears picked up immediately. An unidentified flying object of some sort, whether it's a craft, meteorite, or whatever, was on a collision course with that module going to loop around the moon. So basically, I listened for some time, and then I stopped and went back to work. And then I heard, there they go. In the astronaut world, some of you may not know this, there's a term called green turtle. And it used to be, I don't know if it is today or not, but it used to be is you're not allowed to use profanity over the net. And the first person that does that whoever hears it first and says green turtle, that astronaut's got to buy that man and his entire family a dinner at the most expensive place at Cape Canaveral. Well, to end this real quick, one of them said, damn, they went off, the UFOs took off. He says, damn, that was fast. And somebody yelled, green turtle. And then he said another word, a synonym to crap. And then somebody else yelled, green turtle. And you could see him.
Airman second class was in the dark room at that time. I was also an airman second class. I was interested in how the whole process functioned, how the data got from the lunar orbiter to the laboratory. I asked the young man if he'd describe the process to me. He did. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, in a very distressed way, by the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point, I was very concerned because I knew we were working on compartmentalized security. He had breached security, and I was actually frightened at that moment. And I did not question him any further. And a few moments later, someone did come into the room. I worked there for 3 more days, and I remember going home and naively thinking, I can't wait to hear about this on the evening news. And here it is, more than 30 years later, and I hope we hear about it tonight. And I will testify under oath before Congress that what I'm saying is the truth.
Wow. This aired on CNN mainstream news in the middle of the day in 2001, and it was done live at the press club in Washington, D.C. Okay? In Washington, D.C. These are high-level people. These aren't just like some Joe Schmoes that roll out of bed in a robe and slippers with a prepaid phone and said, let me go down here and run down to this place and hop on a microphone and tell these people a sci-fi crazy story. These are people that have their jobs and careers to put on the line, risk their lives, their family lives. They had to overcome a lot of fear, had to show a lot of courage to even come forward and say this stuff. They made no money, nothing. Just a lot of ridicule and a lot of hate. A lot of ridicule and a lot of hate. That's all they got. But these people are telling the truth, and they're willing to testify. I think they actually ended up a few years ago testifying before Congress. So I think it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Okay? They actually got a chance to do that. And they're willing, as you said, they're all willing to testify. These people are willing to go under oath. High level people. Super high level people that have positions and jobs that most people don't even know exist. Okay? Most people don't even know exist. And you heard what the man just said. Just incredible. All right. Let's look at a couple more, and then I'm going to go more into the UAP side and tell you exactly what the UAP narrative is and what's going to happen with it. All right. Let's take a look at it.
And arms that went through. Significant that I needed to do whatever it was that was necessary for me to do at the time on special operation. And I'm prepared to tell this right here, but I will be available if you. Reporting Center and Peter Davenport and the MUFON, we get 100 reports a week on average of people from all over the United States that see these things regularly. And if you start checking, they're out there and they're low, and people are seeing them all the time. And these are highly qualified people, all of whom essentially give us the reports by email. Thank you. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Clifford Stone. I was a Sergeant First Class, United States Army. I had a secret clearance with nuclear surety. I could get the clearance that I needed to do whatever it was that was necessary for me to do at the time on special operations when I was called in on those. What I'm referring to here is that I was involved in situations where we actually did recoveries of crashed saucers, for lack of a better term, debris thereof. There were bodies that were involved with some of these crashes, also some were alive. While we were doing all this, we were telling the American public there was nothing to it. We were telling the world there was nothing to it. I'd like to go into detail on some of the cases, about the nuts and bolts cases right here, but I will be available if you have any questions concerning my involvement in this. You can talk to Dr. Greer to arrange for me to get to talk to you. But the whole situation is, we've set back, we've told the American people that there's no such thing as UFOs. I've been involved where we have recovered these objects. We know them to be of extraterrestrials. In 1969, I had an event that happened to me while I was stationed at Fort Lee, Virginia. We went to Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania. That would be my first exposure to any time that we would be recovering an unidentified flying object. When we went there, we already had people that was already in the facility. We were a backup team, which was supposed to be NBC, because there was supposed to be some nuclear materials that was on board this craft. Later on, most people involved were to be told that there was nothing on board it. It was nothing more than just a crash of one of our aircraft. I know better, because I was one of the people that approached it with a Geiger counter to get surface readings. I was the first person to go ahead and see that there were bodies on it. That would be the first of approximately 12 events. UFO crashes are not events that take place every day. They're rare. I know we're not alone in the universe. I know that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It's evidence that has been denied to the American people. I stand before you today in my almighty God, and I tell you this: if Congress calls me in and says, will you testify in detail what you know, I stand here today prepared and ready to do just that. Governments must never lie to the people for no reason. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark McCandlish, and for the last 21 years, I have worked as a conceptual artist for a variety of defense contractors. I've been involved in conceptual artwork or the production thereof for Rockwell on the X-30 program, and also on the high-step program. That's spelled HYSTP, means Hypersonic Testbed Program. During the course of my career, I've twice had a secret security clearance. In 1967, while my father was stationed at Westover Air Force Base, the headquarters for 8th Air Force Strategic Air Command, I witnessed and watched through a telescope a UFO which hovered over a nuclear weapons storage facility for approximately 10 minutes and then departed with an acceleration approaching a bullet leaving a rifle barrel. In 1988, in November, a college buddy of mine, an associate by the name of Brad Sorensen, informed me that he had personally witnessed 3 flying saucers at a very large hangar at Norton Air Force Base during the course of an air show that was held on Saturday, November 12, 1988. I subsequently called my congressman from that district. I called his office. This was Congressman George E. Brown Jr., who at the time was the chairman of the Congressional Committee on Space Science and Advanced Technology. I naturally assumed that since this presentation that Brad talked about was for top military brass and certain congressional individuals, that his office must have coordinated this with the local Air Force Office of Public Affairs. A male staff member in Congressman Brown's office not only confirmed the exhibit, but the fact that there were 3 discs at that exhibit. These discs were hovering off the floor without any visible means of support. They were referred to as alien reproduction vehicles, also nicknamed the flux liner because they used high voltage electricity. Let's see, to keep things short, this is a diagram that I made based on a sketch that Brad Sorensen did for me in rough form shortly after he had his sighting, and subsequently cleaned that drawing up and made it much more accurate. And that's the drawing that Dr. Greer is holding there now. Of June of 1967. Later, spoke to a gentleman by the name of Kent Sellen that I met at an air show at Edwards Air Force Base in 1992, the first unveiling publicly of the B-2 bomber. He indicated to me that in 1973, when he was a crew chief working on experimental aircraft at Edwards Air Force Base, that he had unintentionally wandered into an area where there was a classified aircraft, namely the ARV. He described it in detail, and he added other details to the account concerning the configuration and the operation of the vehicle that Brad Sorensen was not aware of. Subsequently, Brad Sorensen met with the famous aeronautical designer Burt Rutan, gave him a copy of this blueprint which you've just been shown. Mr. Rutan felt that it was a joke and put it on his wall as kind of a joke. And a third party confirmed for me later that a Colonel Ray Walsh from Edwards Air Force Base was visiting Mr. Rutan, saw this, this blueprint on the wall and registered quite a degree of shock and anger, wanted to know where the hell he got this blueprint, because there was in fact such a craft at that time, approximately 1994, 95, in a hangar at Edwards Air Force Base, North Base Complex at that time. Subsequently, I've done a lot of research on this product, this vehicle. I've come across a number of declassified documents that show that the Air Force, as early as 1960, was wind tunnel testing flying saucer shapes up to Mach 20. And I also have declassified NASA documents that show similar shapes. In fact, this is the document here that more or less details the wind tunnel testing up to Mach 20. This is the NASA document right here that was declassified, and it shows a variety of spherical and lenticular shapes that were flight tested up to, or I should say, wind tunnel tested up to Mach 6. I subsequently obtained a copy of an interoffice memo from Hercules Aerospace that describes a particular type of science involving something called zero-point energy and scalar waves. According to Brad Sorensen, this is the basis of the technology for these anti-gravity propulsion systems. This particular document here describes 6 different meetings involving the Defense Intelligence Agency and cooperative efforts with the Russian scientific community in investigating this, what is called the fundamental enabling technology that was originally discovered apparently by Nikola Tesla in the early 1900s. Anyway, I could provide you much more detail at a later time, and I am prepared to testify in detail concerning these events and their truthfulness before Congress. Thank you very much.
President for the United States
issue, and it should be taken up by the UN Security.
All right, so shout out to Dr. Stephen Greer. As you can see, he's been doing this for a very, very long time. And we can see there the evolution of seeing these crafts and getting sightings, then getting these crafts downed, right? Using some type of technology. Predominantly, you saw the man, one of the operators, he was actually working on a radar station. Like I said, the scalar technology, that radar system disrupts navigation systems, and in some way, perhaps it could have, I'm not saying it did, but it could have disrupted some of these UFOs. When they discovered this, I think they started utilizing it a lot more often to try to bring these things down. And then eventually they started recovering some of these craft with bodies, and they started reverse engineering the technology to create ARVs, okay? ARVs. This video footage aired on CNN in 2001, approximately 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on the news, they're talking about all this other crazy stuff all day long. This should have been still being talked about today. They're acting like this UAP thing is the first time they've ever come out and people have ever come out to make these incredible statements and claims. But this happened a very, very long time ago, a very long time ago. Okay. And I have a new science show called Forbidden Science. And in one of the first episodes, I talk about scalar technology and scalar weapons. Okay. These are 30-minute science shows that are being edited right now. So some of the topics like tonight, the scalar technology, you'll get an in-depth explanation as to what that technology is, how it works, and how it can be weaponized. That's my new Forbidden Science show coming out very soon. I've already filmed them, just waiting for the editing to be complete so we can begin to release the content. All right. So it's going to be pretty incredible. Now, let's get into some of this. I'm trying to this off here. Boom, boom. Okay, here we go. Thanks for the super stickers. Thanks for the great comments. All right. Blissful says, can't wait to see that. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm trying to hide these. All right, boom. All right, now here we go. So let's get into the TR3B. Let me see if I can find a picture of some of the TR3B. I've been on quite a few TV shows talking about the TR3B, and I'm going to read some of my notes on the TR3B, some of my original notes that I put out years and years ago, which then got copied. This is a TR3B actual photo, which has been in several shows that I've been on, specifically one on the Travel Channel. That's the TR3B, okay? That's an actual witness photo, authenticated real photograph. It's actually a video, which I'm going to play a clip of the video. That's a screenshot from the video, okay? Here's an experimental, different version of it, but you can see that rotator ring at the bottom, which I'm going to explain in a minute when I give my description. And here's a version that Russia has developed and used, and that's a real photo of a TR3B, okay? Now, these TR3Bs utilize ARV technology, alien reproduction technology. They are actually a reverse engineered craft. So if you see a flying triangle, and there have been a lot of flying triangle sightings for quite some time, those are not, in most cases, UFOs from other planets or other star systems. They are from human beings right here on Earth. Let me read some of the information about these TR3Bs. And then I'm going to play you a short video that you can check out. Okay. This is from 2016 when I put this out on my Forbidden Knowledge account from 2016. The TR3B is a code. The TR3B, I'm sorry, is has a code name Astra. So even though it's a TR3B is the name of the actual vessel, it's a code name. This particular version of this flying triangle the code name is actually Astra. It's part of the Aurora program. It's a tactical reconnaissance operational vehicle that has been flying since the 1990s. Now, if you can't believe that, just remember when we had 2001, where we had this whole thing going on with, the war in Iraq, then they showed us the stealth fighters, and those stealth fighters had been around decades before we knew they existed, okay? The triangular-shaped, nuclear-powered aerospace platform was developed under the top-secret Aurora program with SDI and black budget money. At least 3 of the billion-dollar-plus TR-3Bs were flying by 1994. The Aurora was the most classified aerospace development program in existence. The TR-3B is the most exotic vehicle created by the Aurora program. It is funded and operated and tasked by the National Reconnaissance Office, which is the NSA and also the CIA. And the TR-3B flying triangle is not fiction. It was built with technology available in the mid-1980s. Not every UFO spotted is one of theirs. The TR-3B vehicle's outer coating is a reactive electrical radar absorbing skin and can change reflectiveness. So it can absorb radar, absorb radar and change its own reflectiveness. This polymer skin, when used in conjunction with the TR-3B electronic countermeasures, ECCMs, can make the vehicle look like a small craft or a flying cylinder, or even trick radar receivers into falsely detecting a variety of aircraft or no aircraft at all. This is crazy. A circular plasma field accelerator ring called the magnetic field disruptor surrounds a rotatable crew compartment and is far ahead of any imaginable technology that we have. They have been spotted all over the USA, and the military is not hiding them anymore, okay? And so here's an image of one. You're gonna hear some music behind this because I had music playing when I posted this back then, but just check this out. Let me see if I can get that. Where's that clip at? It's up here. went down here. There we go. That's a real TR-3B, okay? That is a UAP, okay? That's what they're calling UAPs now. These TR-3Bs and these other objects that are these drones that they've been talking about, and all these other objects like the Tic Tac incident. Those objects are actually made by us. And so what the government has done, they've gotten very smart. They realize that when they take taxpayer dollars and begin to develop these technologies themselves under government projects, there's something called a FOIA Act that we can initiate to find out what they've been doing with our money, a Freedom of Information Act. So if we pull a FOIA, we can, because it's our right as tax-paying citizens, to see what the hell they've been doing with our money. Where did these $14 trillion go? We want to see the projects. We need to see the evidence. We need a breakdown in the budget for every penny spent. So when that started happening, they said, we can't let them see what we're doing. So that's when they started contracting out these projects to private corporations, because private corporations are bulletproof against FOIAs. You can't pull a FOIA against Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman. They'll laugh at you. The government's not going to release that information of their private budgets and everything they're doing behind private closed doors and what kind of technology they're developing. So now the Pentagon gets this money. They siphon 10, 15, 20 trillion. They put it into the Pentagon. And then these private aerospace companies submit their drawdowns to them. And then they grant these contracts. And then they get paid that money. Now, there's a couple things that happen with this money. The first thing is a lot of these projects never see the light of day. Well, most of them never see the light of day, but some of them actually never even work or fly. So they'll say, look, we need 15 billion for this new space age fighter jet. And so, okay, the Pentagon person will then, okay, we're going to grant you this contract. Here's the money. Now, not knowing that the person at the Pentagon is in on the whole deal too, getting the submarine money, right? The little cut. And then they take this 15 billion, they start laying out and developing this new plane, this new fighter jet, for example, knowing from the beginning it was never meant to even fly, work, or do anything. But they got to justify the 15 billion and the huge salaries and the executive salaries from the C-suite and all the people taking home, $15, $20 million salaries. So they'll run that project for years until all the money is dried out. The project was never meant to actually do anything. Then they'll go back and say, well, we almost have it ready. Just send us another 10 billion. That ought to get it done, and we'll have something for you. We'll have something we can give you a demonstration. They send another $10 billion for the same project. The project never gets completed. Everybody's just chopping up the taxpayer dollars and putting it in their fat pockets. You see? That's what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. And then you have the project that they really do work on. These black budget projects that are being created with no congressional oversight. Presidents have not been debriefed on them. Other politicians in Senate and Congress don't even know they exist. They go on missions that no one knows about. Missions. They actually have missions that they go on. But these are unapproved, unacknowledged missions. And those projects are developed using those black budget monies that are siphoned out of taxpayer dollars, creating incredible reverse engineered technologies that can change the planet that we live on if they were utilized for peace and health versus utilizing for weaponization. And that's what's happened. So they will develop these incredible craft, and because nobody's allowed to be debriefed about them or read in on them, They then go on these missions and they occasionally will get sighted. They will get seen, right? So then all of a sudden, oh my God, I just saw a UFO. Sometimes it's not a UFO. It's an IFO, an identified flying object, something that we know actually exists. It's just that the general population doesn't know about it. Black budget project. Sometimes they're doing psyops, just testing out the response of people, how many people can see it or would see it on a particular day or night. What is the panic rating? Is it how high is the fear? How low is the fear? What will the news and media do? How will they run with it? And what will they say? These are just psyops, some of them. And then when they realized the power that they had with this, they said, you know what? The military said, we need to collaborate with some of these unacknowledged projects, because now we can find a way to make a lot more money on wars, a war that doesn't even actually exist, which they've done before. If you research the Gulf of Tonkin incident, we're talking about Vietnam now, they use that as the impetus to go into war and go to war against Vietnam. A fake attack that didn't ever happen. Well documented now. It's too late. Hundreds of thousands of people had to die. Years and years, decades and decades of war. But that made so much money for people in the war interest, in the war corporations, in the war business. It made them billionaires, absolute billionaires. And the U.S. government also raked in billions, if not trillions of dollars off of this colluded war. So now what's happened? They've gone to just about every country to bring democracy. You see all those countries that are turned to dust? That's where we brought democracy. We turned them into dust. We pulverized those countries. And since there's nowhere else to really go to bring democracy, we've gone down into Argentina. We've destroyed the entire Middle East. We've gone all over the place. Now other countries are building up their own superpowers, so we don't want to mess with them. We've installed banks in most of these countries and puppet dictators. And now that we've pretty much got everyone, at each other's throats all around the world, we said, man, where are we going to get some more war money? There's nowhere else to go. So the next place is up. Space. It's space. Space is the next big moneymaker, especially for the war machine. Especially for the war machine. It's the next big moneymaker. Let me tell you how it works. Since the wars are pretty much coming to an end for America, there's nobody for us to really fight. It's all been said and done. It's been pre-planned. We fulfilled all those missions. Now we say, okay, we need an enemy. We need an enemy from where? From space. So we're going to take some of these ARVs and we're going to pull another modern day Gulf of Tonkin incident. We're going to attack our own selves with one of our own created ships that we bought from one of these private corporations. And we're going to claim that the aliens are out to kill us. Look, they flew in from 10 light years away and they shot some laser beams at one of our Navy vessels in the ocean. They came way across the vast distances of space to take a couple of shots at us. Oh my God, we gotta prepare for the aliens now. So now Congress authorizes, President authorizes trillions of dollars to be moved into the space weapons industry, which is what they're trying to develop right now. And now they've got to just develop trillions of dollars worth of space weaponry. A whole new industry just cropped up out of nothing. And they're going to develop, they're already developing these things. So they're working on these black budget projects, unacknowledged black budget projects with no congressional oversight, creating weapons that can obliterate cities, that can do so much damage. But they're for aliens. We have to stop the aliens. We think that we can stop aliens now. So that's where the money's going to begin to go. So when you create the situation, right, it's like David Icke says, problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, they wait for the reaction, and then they provide the solution. That's the same thing pharmaceutical companies do. It's a proven business tactic that works and makes trillions of dollars. So the next step is, hey, These UAPs, as you've been hearing all the time, they're a threat to national security. They're a threat to global security. Really, they are. From what I just showed you, they haven't been a threat whatsoever. Looks like they've been trying to let us know that we're the threat against our own selves. They sent us a message and they said, hey, guys, you have 32,000 nukes on your planet. Did you know they were pointed at yourselves while you're still on the planet? You don't even have an escape hatch or an escape ship to get away when these things pop off. We're going to go ahead and show you how we can deactivate them for you. But no, all of a sudden in the 2000s, here we go in the late 2000s, early 2000s, so I guess you want to say 2024, so kind of the early 2000s, first quarter of the 2000s, it's all of a sudden these UAPs, they're a risk, they're a threat to security. They may attack us. And I'm telling you what's coming next. They're going to authorize the money for the weapons. And a whole new space weapon industry is being born right before your very eyes, and you aren't even aware of it. And then when they say, what happened to this $14 trillion? We put that into space weapons. That's for the Space Force. Don't worry. That's to protect the humans on the planet. Meanwhile, the executives of those corporations are taking home $15, $20 million salaries, just cleaning up. A lot of this stuff will never actually really fully be developed. It'll be played around with an R&D, research and development, but they'll never really fully develop a lot of this stuff. They're just going to siphon the money and use it to pay out salaries and bonuses. And when that gets almost ran out, they're going to go back, we just send us another $3-4 billion for this one project. We almost got it figured out. Just send us a few more billion and we just might get it right. Meanwhile, they'll develop a couple, weapons here and there. And those weapons, they can protect us, but they can also hurt us. Because why? They can be probably used to point at any country in the world because they'll be in space. There's rumors of this weapon called the rods from God, where they have 20-foot tungsten steel rods sitting in a rotator ring on a satellite that can be repositioned over any country on the planet within minutes. No warhead. They can just drop a tungsten steel rod using kinetic energy, destroy an entire city with no fallout, no warhead at all. And they can drop it to precision within centimeters of their target. These are the kind of things that they develop utilizing the money from the sweat and labor of the people of the planet. Which is why I always tell you, we have to take back control of this planet at some point. At some point. So just be aware of this fake space war that they've got planned, because if you really want to use basic logic, why would I fly 2 light years to get here, which is like breaking the laws of physics, just so I can take a couple of shots at your Navy ship, and now everyone's on edge, trying to figure out how they can stop us. And the people, when they get scared, take the money. When they get scared from the little global sickness, take the Jabberwowski. I'm so scared. Give it to me. I can't wait to get this thing in my arm. You see? The fear. When you have the fear, when they know that you have the real fear, they can manipulate you. And so I believe that this whole UAP thing is all about a level of manipulation. And they're trying to get to a point where they will manipulate people and scare people so much that they'll be in fear that there's a real alien attack coming. And they'll be so happy that the tax dollars are going to go to protect them. In their mind, that's what they're thinking. But what's really happening is the same thing that happens at a lot of these places. They just siphon money and utilize it to pay themselves. Okay? That's what happens. So that's my update on UFOs and UAPs and the difference between the two. Hopefully you got an understanding of what real UFOs are, because I believe that real UFOs actually exist. I believe that extraterrestrial life actually exists. And I actually believe that most of these ETs look like you and me. I believe they look like you and me. Not all of them, but most of them. That's what I believe. And so, but you are able to make your own decision. You're able to do your own research and come up with your own idea. Okay? You're able to come up with your own idea. All right. So we appreciate you guys. And I want to thank y'all for coming out. We have a lot of cool stuff going on. Don't forget about the global meditation coming up on the 21st, on the solstice. There's a global meditation. We're going to be doing a global meditation for peace and unity on December 21st. We haven't done it. We didn't do it last year, but we do it every year. But the last big one was the one we did for police brutality. So this global meditation is going to be for peace and unity. Okay. I did a meditation with my wife today, and it was so relieving. It was a meditation. She came to me and said, we need to do a special meditation. I meditate every morning, but she said, we need to do a special meditation right now. And we did a very special meditation just to bring peace and love to everyone. And so it was a good time for us to reflect and just to release frustration, release anger, release hate, and just get into the frequency of gratitude and happiness, and just let everything go and flow and just get back into that high frequency. Every now and then we got to get back into brain heart coherence. You know, that's the way it works. Every single person on this planet goes through different situations from different times, and every single person is going through a battle that you don't even know of. So we're going to do this global meditation for peace and unity. We're going to do it as a global meditation webinar. It's going to be free for everyone. And we'll be sending out some links and everything on that very, very soon. Probably tomorrow. I wanted to do it last week, but we got really too tied up. But probably tomorrow, I'll make sure I get that registration link up for the global mass meditation. It'll be a fully guided meditation. And so for 11 minutes and 11 seconds of your life, you're going to focus and devote and harness your energy and your power towards global peace and unity for everyone. And so that's what it's all about, all right? Getting people on that frequency. I appreciate you guys. Love you. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I'm looking forward to so much more. And I'll be back again very, very soon with more Forbidden Knowledge. Make sure you guys go to the Forbidden Knowledge website. Check out our gear and all our products on there. But also go to the App Store and get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on your App Store, where we have a lot of incredible videos that don't make it to YouTube. These videos are just for Forbidden Knowledge TV, exclusive for the people who subscribe to Forbidden Knowledge TV. And we also have free videos on there as well. Tons and tons of free content on there. And my audio book is on there. So I'm converting all my books to audio. The very first audio book is up now, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets audio book. People have been asking for years, when are you going to have the audio up? You can go get the audio book for Compendium of the Emerald Tablets on forbiddenknowledge.com. All right, so make sure you guys go and check that out. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Terrence Tech, yes, you can still invest in Forbidden Knowledge. Go to forbiddenknowledge.com. Contrary to popular belief out there with what's going on, it's still an amazing offering, an amazing opportunity. We have a great offering. You can go there and you can download all the materials and information and make an educated decision on if you'd like to invest in Forbidden Knowledge today. You can own shares of Forbidden Knowledge. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com. We have some new investor updates coming out very soon. So if you are an existing investor, we have 6,000 existing investors. Make sure that you guys check out your text messages and your emails for our private investor webinar coming very, very soon. Look for those dates and check it out. And also look for your updated emails that have been coming out to you as well with all of our other newsletters and updates. Check your spam folder just in case you don't see them, but they've been going out pretty much almost every month. All right. We love you guys. We appreciate y'all, and we catch y'all later. And, there's a special tour coming up in 2027. 2027, our Forbidden Knowledge Tour is going to be directly under the full lunar eclipse in Luxor. So if you want to hang out with us in Luxor, we know every year we take about 100 people to Egypt. This Luxor trip is going to be a very special one, though, because the lunar eclipse is going to happen directly over our ship. We're going to dock our ship in Luxor, and we're going to do a global meditation right there on the sun deck during a full lunar eclipse. So if you want to find out more about that, go to forbiddenknowledge.com and register. That one's selling out fast as well. The 2025 Forbidden Knowledge Tour of Egypt is almost sold out, and our Forbidden Tour of Peru is almost sold out. So only a few seats left there as well. So if you want to come on, you better hurry up and grab your tickets ASAP on forbiddenknowledge.com. All right, everyone, we love you guys. We appreciate y'all. And I want you to just watch this last clip. Peace.
Forbidden knowledge.